In today's episode, we build Parkkeeper Bob's workshop, breathe some new life into some of our older exhibits, and finally add some babies to Ornithomimus Pond. Welcome to the ultimate wildlife sanctuary. Welcome to Prehistoric Park. Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Moral, back with another Prehistoric Kingdom speed build in Prehistoric Park. And it's been like 2 weeks since the last episode, which is like a new record for me. So we've really jumped right into another build here, and I was actually working on the next episode too already. So we have hopefully we're getting close to being done with this project so I can actually release it to everyone and everyone can enjoy this project that I've had for 3 years on the back burner. But yeah, so today the plan was to go in and start cleaning up a bunch of stuff, cleaning up exhibits that didn't exactly transfer over well from the previous file, the Spain map, and kind of just bring everything, update everything, and breathe some new life into it. So we obviously start out here with the Ornithomimus Pond, and I kind of wish that I could have like held this off until the Gallimimus update, but I'm just gonna do that whenever Gallimimus gets added, because that'll be a much better stand-in for Ornithomimus, obviously. But I was just like, I can't hold the video off for however 2 months or whatever, because that's supposed to come around the end of July, I think, maybe? I can't remember, but I just settled with the babies to be the new star of the show. So we added in the baby Dinosaurs here. They look fuzzy just like in the show. And yeah, so obviously Dinosaurs is a placeholder. We'll replace them eventually, but this enclosure did not look great, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how I let that be the finished product, but it was not great. It was a little too big. You can see like the fences here from the old one. It's like massive. And also just didn't have great foliage. I can't remember if I just didn't bring foliage over or something, but I think it's a much needed improvement, and now it looks a lot better. I also think part of the reason some of my older builds don't look as great is because the amount of like trees and stuff we had back then was more limited. Because obviously now I use a lot of the grassland trees, and I use a lot of the tropical trees. And back then I was just using what I had available, which was the Spain scrubland plants mainly. But yeah, so here we're working on getting the pond shape right. I can't remember if the pond shape looked right in the old one, but I made sure it was pretty accurate. I think it's a little smaller now. And obviously I'm working a lot with the plants, trying to improve how it looks. I've been trying recently to just get better at placing plants and being more intentional with what plants are going where. And you can see here I didn't actually use water. I used a glass piece just to like not have to bother with the grass. The water. I can't speak today. But yeah, I didn't want to deal with the water mechanics. The water is really buggy right now, and it's not like in its final state, I guess. So hopefully eventually we'll get water that works a little better, but right now it's a little bit everywhere. So I used that while I was building, and then eventually changed it out for the real water. But either way, the Dinosaurs love standing inside the pond, just like in the show, I guess. So even if it's like glass, they'll stand there and they'll like walk on water, or if you just put water on there, they're gonna just be swimming the whole time. So either way, I think I saw something on the Discord about the devs wanting to fix that, or maybe it was people complaining about it, maybe saying that it's kind of unrealistic how much animals swim. I can't remember, but obviously that's something that will be fixed. And moving on here, I mean, I'm really speeding through this. This was not the main part of the build. This was just updating stuff. But I did want to update the fences now that we have these rustic wood pieces, just to give a little bit more texture to these fences. Because, I mean, as you can see, the old fences look good, but they are all like this one log, and it's very smooth. And honestly, I'm not a huge fan of those logs. the smooth logs. I'm really glad we have these rustic pieces now. And you can see here I'm just going in and pretty much just replacing the logs and keeping the fence the exact same. And then obviously I have to recolor it all eventually to be one type of wood color, because they're all pretty different colors, but that's fine. We just change them all and it looks pretty solid. I still can't decide on exactly what kind of like color the wooden prehistoric park is, because a lot of it looks warm and then you look at it in different lighting and it looks kind of gray. And it might just be different locations on the park have kind of like different colored wood. Like it might just be a more weathered piece here and a more like cold, dry piece somewhere else. But I went with a pretty cool color here, which is a little different from what I've done before. I've gone with warm before, but I think it looks more realistic this way. And yeah, so as I'm re-outlining the enclosure here, I was trying to make it a little smaller, not take up as much space. There's not really a problem about like using up too much of the space. There's not really anything around the Ornithomimus Pond. I think the closest enclosure is the Elasmotherium, and it's like the opposite direction. But I just wanted to make it a little smaller to be more realistic. I think it was a little bigger than it looked like in the show, so that was a quick fix. Here I kind of just let the Dinosaurs through in a funny way. I pretty much made a gate for them and then let them be free here, as you can see right there. I was like, alright, they'll just run out eventually. And yeah, eventually they do. This is part of that new kind of herding they implemented, where they kind of follow each other now. It's really nice having the animals actually like at least somewhat interact with each other, and in the future they're definitely going to be interacting a lot more. And it's really great seeing how far the game has come in that aspect, because I remember when the game first released to early access, the animals had like barely any like flavor to them. They didn't even have like the idle animations they have now, like a little, like the flip the Dryo does, or the little jump that the Velociraptor does. Like they didn't have any of that. They just walked. I don't even know if they ran. I think they literally just walked, ate, and laid down. But it looks so much better now. The animals are so much more alive, and they're really doing a great job. And hopefully within the next year-ish or so, I think the game should be coming out of early access as their full release, and that'll be a really great thing to have. But moving on here, as you can see, I kind of skipped over it while I was talking, but we're adding in some bushes around the lake, trying to make it a little more built up, a little bit more grown over. I love the new grasses. Probably not new, but I love using these new grasses I didn't use before and trying to make the ground cover a little more interesting. It really just gives you something to visually like latch onto instead of just being this bare grass texture on the terrain. It looks great. And I was really focused on like 2 clips of the show where I could see the trees over here, and it was like a pan shot, so I had to like keep pausing. It'd be like so smeared from like the motion blur, I'd have to like make out little details. I'm like, that's like probably a patch of trees, and it ended up looking pretty good, so can't complain. But it's definitely a lot more accurate. And then obviously over here you have the little patch of tropical plants that the female Ornithomimus lays her eggs in, so that's really good. I'm actually worried that in the future, if the show continued, I wonder how many Ornithomimus Bob would have had to take care of. Because, I mean, surely not just one of the Ornithomimus started laying eggs? Eggs. Jeez. Eggs. And like, speaking of eggs, here they are. I added them in. Obviously, if the babies already hatch, that must be the next mother's brood. So Bob has some very worrying logistics to worry about. But yeah, so I continued filling out the plants. As you can see, I'm kind of jumping around. Like, I was jumping over because there's Camarasaurus everywhere in the park right now. It's because I moved them out of their enclosure, kind of like Bob, and I basically became Bob. There's also like a random pair of Parasaurolophus and a Triceratops group because I like filmed the intro and then like let them go free. Not great. So they're just pretty much all over. If you see them, don't worry about it. But moving on here, we're finished with the Ornithomimus. It was pretty simple, like I said. we're moving on here to Bob's workshop. And to start off, I was just kind of getting the dimensions right and trying to build this little door here. Super simple. It's a very basic door. It's more like a gate than a door. It's not a solid block or anything. But Bob's workshop was definitely time consuming. There was a lot of little tiny details. I would relate it most to Nigel's den in the fact that I had to build so many little props. And that's what takes the most time, actually. That's the reason this episode and Nigel's den are two of the longest, because just building 60 little props, it may not seem like a lot of time for one prop, but once you add 60 of them, like, it builds up really fast, very fast. But the end product was really nice, so I'm not complaining. I guess I should also, I was thinking about this while building Bob's workshop, but I was wondering what I should talk about during this episode. I always like to think it through, even though I suck at talking. But I kind of started to think about it, and I'm not actually sure if I've ever in this series told you what Prehistoric Park was. Which I didn't think of as a problem, because I assume most people watching a video called Remaking Prehistoric Park would know. But if there's some of you out there who don't know about Prehistoric Park, that must be so confusing to be like, oh, Bob. I wonder who Bob is. Oh, who's Nigel? So, if you don't know, Prehistoric Park is a mini-series from 2006, I think. And Bob is our trustworthy, I hope. Our trusty, is what I meant to say, trusty park keeper, head keeper. And he's kind of just the one who really runs the show, while Nigel gets to run around prehistoric times and wrestle with dinosaurs. So he does a lot of the maintenance work, a lot of the busy work, and he has a very close attachment to the Ornithomimus in the show, because I guess they're his favorite, or maybe they just were the most fun for him to work with, I don't know. But he actually ends up incubating 2 of their eggs here at Bob's workshop, and those 2 hatch, and yeah, I mean, they follow Bob around. There isn't much to say about them, because that kind of happens towards the end of the show, but it was a very cute little thing seeing the baby Ornithomimus. So, yeah, I mean, that's your rundown of who Bob is, I guess, and what we're building here. And I'll probably have to do the same thing when I get to the vet surgery, because that also is, I would have to explain who Suzanne is, so stay tuned for that, I guess. But yeah, so building this was pretty simple. The only issue I had was there's not a lot of great scenes where I could actually like make out many details. There's probably about, I'd be generous and say maybe 10 minutes, if even that, of footage from this location. And even then, 10 minutes is very generous. So I actually had to do a lot of research on, just not even research, that's a little bit boastful. It was just watching the show over and over to mark down everything I saw, look at everything, copy it as best I could. I also really need to shout out Scop5686, who some of you might see around in my comments sometimes, and they are just like the most knowledgeable person on Prehistoric Park, I think, in the world. Because I asked them if they knew anything about where Bob's workshop was located in real life, and they replied with a comment saying where it was in Croc World, like how many meters away from the car park it was, and even sent like a video with like a time clip. They are actually just the most amazing person. I think has to be one of the most knowledgeable people on Prehistoric Park in the world, because they know all of these things just like off the top of their head. And even before I made this series, I actually knew about Scop, which is crazy because now they're commenting in my videos. But I followed their Reddit post where they were saying, or asking the South Africa Reddit or somebody about Prehistoric Park and locations, and that was a few years ago. So it's really impressive just how much knowledge they have. And I do want to say, I hope I'm saying your name right. It might not be Scop, but it's SKOP. So sorry if I said it wrong, but yeah, huge shout out, huge compliments. And yeah, I mean, that's all I really have to say. I'm just a huge admirer of their work. And yeah, so anyways, getting back to the build here, very simple as you can see. That was a weird glitch right there. I was trying to move the guy and he was just like scaling, even though I was using like the M button. Really strange. But as you can see, this is kind of just like a small little shed. It's really simple. In real life, it's now like a pig farm, so there's not much you can really get out of real life, but I did use that pig farm to kind of inform a little bit about the little like fenced in net area in front of Bob's workshop. And I didn't really do much with that area. I kind of just left it as just like this weird like cage that isn't really being used for anything, but yeah, I'm working on it now, as you can see. I mean, it turned out fine, but I mean, I don't really know its purpose, especially not in the context of the show at least. So yeah. But there really isn't much to say about the function of any of this area. It's really just a maintenance area. I mean, the background is filled with like drills and random like saw blades, and like I think there's a tractor in the back somewhere, and a bunch of plants and a lot of plastic bags everywhere. So I just had to like really clutter it up. And I feel like in game the clutter pieces kind of fit more of like the modern zoo aesthetic. And I mean, that's fine because that's what most people need. But a lot of things I had to kind of go in and like make personally. Like obviously the game doesn't have any like blades, like saw blades or anything, so I kind of had to style those myself, and like a bunch of drill pieces. But where I couldn't like directly take from the show, I did use a lot of the in-game props just to save on count pieces. So like behind things, or like where you can't really see the clutter, I used a lot of, what did they have, like boxes and barrels, just to save on the I can't even speak, count pieces. Yeah, count pieces, because I'm sure this is probably like not the most interesting for a lot of people here. I'm sure most people are more interested in the exhibits and the animals. Obviously this is still a very important part of the park, but I didn't want to go overboard, which is what I say as I watch myself build custom fences here to lean against the wall. But that's besides the point. I just didn't want to go super overboard, and at the end of the day, I don't think I really did. Obviously I want it to be super accurate, but I don't think I pushed it further than it needed to be. So that was points in my head, in my favor, I guess. And yeah, so here we're working on some plant potters. I cannot speak today. Plant pots. And just some small details. Little hose here. I actually had to go back and redo a couple of things in this area because I totally like closed the game without saving, and the autosave was not enabled, because usually I keep it turned off if I'm like trying to record cinematics, because it always will like freeze for like a second in the middle of your recording. But then when I get to building and I forget to turn it back on, I might accidentally close the game, and that did unfortunately happen. So all of this, you can see there's like a little like trough here full of water too. I had to go back and remake it, unfortunately, but it turned out fine, so no worries there. It just took a little bit of extra time, but it's not too much of a problem. I didn't leave in every little part of detailing Bob's workshop because I just didn't think it was necessary. I kept in most of the custom builds that people might want to see, but I mean, I'm sure most of you can imagine what it would look like to place like 100 boxes behind some pillar that you can't even see. So I kind of left that out. And yeah, here we're building this little custom fence that goes on the side. I really like the look of this fence. It's not really something you see in the rest of the show, but it will be going in the Prehistoric Park custom items whenever I upload all those. I still need to get around to that. I have a lot of things unpublished. But yeah. Obviously we have a lot of things like this left to do, and not so much a lot of exhibits left, which it can be a good or bad thing depending on what you like to watch. here I did this little trick where I use like the truncated cone to make a pot shape that looks more accurate, and you just sink it in the ground. Really nice little detail I enjoyed adding there. But yeah, back on track. What was I saying? Right, there's not but 2 more exhibits, I think, which are the Terror Bird and T-Rex, I think, maybe? Yeah, I think so. There's a few other, I guess non-canon enclosures. Well, maybe not even canon. Just more, they've never really been shown on screen. So obviously, there is the Big Cat Climb exhibit, but there's also a second enclosure, which is why you can see once the baby Smilodon are born, the parents kind of get moved out of there to a different enclosure. So we'll have to figure something out there that looks like it could fit in line with Prehistoric Park and throw that in somewhere. I'm not even sure. Probably, I would figure close to Big Cat Climb, but we'll see. There's that, and then there's also, I do want to build for the Troodon, which I figure I'll probably just use a Velociraptor for until we get something closer in game, like maybe if we ever get like a Troodontid. And I'm not really sure what I want to do with that, because you don't really see anything for the Troodon. Obviously, Nigel didn't intend on bringing one back. So, I mean, at the end of the show, you can see Bob like traps it in a little cage, but I do want to add like somewhere for it to live, because I would figure after it's there, I'm sure Nigel wouldn't want to just be like, throw it back to the extinction. I think he would probably want to keep it. So, I mean, maybe it can go somewhere around Bob's workshop, because I feel like they get along pretty well, or maybe not, but who knows? But yeah, those are the only exhibits left, and then we obviously have the vet surgery and the main complex, and then it should be pretty much done from there. And then later, obviously, like I said in the intro, we're gonna have some extra work being done at the end of this episode on a few other things, really minor, like just basically like I did with the Ornithomimus, but to a lesser extent. Like I updated the Mammoth mount, and you'll see later, it looks good, but it's gonna be like maybe a minute of footage. It's not anything crazy. But yeah, I mean, I would say we're pretty much reaching the end of the series pretty soon, which is exciting because then I can finally like release this map to everyone. But yeah, back to the build here. You can obviously see I built like a cement mixer there, which was pretty simple, nothing crazy. I'm so glad that there are new like art shape pieces. They are so nice. The new ones are great, and I'm a huge art shape kind of guy. I really don't like using walls for stuff. In some cases, I like building custom things. So having these new pieces and with the textures, it is so nice. I might have went a little bit overboard using the art pieces in a few places, but I don't think it detracts from the build, because I do know that one of the tables I used the new textures for, and it looked a little out of place at first, but once I kind of buried it in a bunch of papers and stuff, it looked fine. So here we're working on Bob's little chair with the art pieces, like I said. I just love, like, you can use this metal now to make it look so much nicer. It's a great addition. This chair kind of sucked, and I just kind of had to figure out the proportions and everything, but at the end of the day, it looked fine. I don't know how screen accurate it is, so sorry to all of you. I have to apologize, but I wasn't fully aware of the chair's anatomy, I guess. I didn't know what kind of chair it was, but I went pretty close. I didn't want to build all the underside. Like I said, count piece is pretty important for me. I still want the park to run pretty well. It's not become an issue yet, but I am just kind of trying to future-proof it in case, like, if the frames start to dip a little bit. Because used to I could run the park in cinematic while I built. Now I normally run it in high. Not saying like it should run all the time in cinematic. That was kind of crazy on my part, but I can definitely tell a difference in some areas where I'm going from maybe like 100 frames. Now I'm on maybe 60 to 50 from time to time. It really depends on the area. They did a really good job optimizing the pieces in this game, I feel like. But even so, I'm very mindful of trying to keep the piece count low now. And hopefully it won't become an issue. That's why I'm trying to future-proof everything and make sure it doesn't become an issue. But yeah, that's why I just kind of... I don't want to go as crazy on a bunch of like pieces on stuff. Obviously, I still keep it mostly screen accurate, but yeah. So we built this little barbed wire fence around the area. I couldn't really get a grasp of how big Bob's workshop was, so I kind of kept it to what you could see. And then I just kind of covered it with a bunch of trees. From what I can see on the show, the area is pretty heavily forested. But there are a few areas where it's like, you can kind of just see like tropical plants over the fence, so I kind of went with that. This is an area in the show you really see these like barbed wire fences, which I guess is interesting. I'm not exactly sure why that was interesting to me, but I thought it was like different. Just because it felt more realistic, I guess, than the wooden barriers that are normally used. Because wooden barriers aren't really something you see where I'm from. I'm from America, obviously. I'm from the United States. So you don't really see like a bunch of wooden fences like this in this style. It's very safari vibe, as you know from Prehistoric Park. I mean, anyone who's watched it knows. It very much feels like a safari park. Which, I mean, shocker, that's probably what they were going for, but yeah, I mean, I just kind of... It's very interesting seeing like the chain link fences and realizing like, oh, this was like a real place that people filmed at Croc World. I don't know, I just thought that was super interesting. And yeah, so we're just cluttering things up now. That tarp I built just a second ago that I kind of missed, I don't know what was under there. I don't know what Bob's hiding. And we don't have a great way to put a tarp over something, so I kind of just made a box. Maybe it was a tractor under there, I'm not sure, but I worked with what I had. I think it looked alright. And then here I'm using, like I said earlier, like the art pieces with the textures. So useful. The granite, I think it's granite. Whatever it is. Here I'm just messing around now. I'm throwing in the tractor trike. The trike tractor. I was really just trying to get the scale right on the gate, but I think it turned out alright. I think it's pretty accurate scale-wise. It's just a little odd coming from the angle that I was looking at. And I mean, yeah, so after I got everything kind of situated, I started working on all of the clutter. Starting with his little like office space here. It's kind of like 2 tables, a chair. And this is where I was kind of using a lot of rustic pieces, and I think it turned out okay. But I think I might have overdone it a little bit, honestly, on the rustic pieces. I think the new texture they have was really good, but it feels as if I kind of overdid it and used it too much, and it kind of looks a little bit too crisp compared to everything else, if that makes any sense. And I mean, in this build, I was jumping around a ton, from just foliage to a table to a prop. So sorry if it's a little scattered, but that's just kind of the workflow I found myself in. There's just so much clutter everywhere that I was really trying to get right. And that's the thing with building based off these like screenshots from the show. I just kind of start by trying to get perspective right from the angles I have and then fill the rest in later. Which, I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but it's the way I do it. So, that's why a lot of times you can see me go back to the same angle of something like multiple times throughout the entire build, just because that's the shot I have from the show, and I want to make sure, if anything, at least that lines up. So, yeah, I mean, here working on another tool, by the way. Like I said, I don't want to waste pieces, but I also want it to be accurate. So I had to sacrifice some for a couple of builds. Not anything major. These were all maybe like 20, 25 pieces. Nothing crazy. This was some kind of I looked them all up. I can't remember now. I'm not like a mechanical person. I don't really know the names of all these tools. When I set foot in the garage, they all kind of look the same to me. So I looked them up, obviously, and now I can't remember the names that I looked up, but I just kind of matched what I saw on screen mostly. I didn't try to make it mechanically accurate where it would look like it would function, but that's fine. I don't need it to function. I need it to look like a prop. And yeah, I mean, this one was cool because it had this weird like twist thing on it that looked like some kind of steampunk like twist. I don't even know. It's really cool looking. So I mean, it was interesting to build, fun to build, and I mean, yeah. So that's basically all that one was. And then there was also a few others. There was obviously the drill. There was the cement mixer. But yeah, here I'm working on another table. And this one I used the art pieces with the new wood texture on them instead of the rustic pieces. And it definitely looks a lot different. I feel like the rustic pieces look weathered and this kind of looks like a newer table. Maybe Bob bought it in the last year or so, I don't know. But I kind of just built them different because I didn't want them to be exactly the same. And then the second room here, I just kind of decided to start cluttering up. The only thing you really see are these big like drums and that huge hose and maybe one shelf. So behind this big hose here, I just kind of cluttered it up and added a bunch of random stuff. Like you can't see that shelf at all in the background. I kind of just like implied that. There's a bunch of stuff where if I couldn't see it, I just threw in like I said earlier, the props from the base game. And this area especially because you can't see anything past that huge hose pipe, so I just figured it out. And I mean, hopefully no one looks back there hard enough. But the idea was just to throw enough in there to look like it was just the clutter that Bob had. And I mean, if you've ever been in like a workshop, you always just have random pieces everywhere, a bunch of stuff. And maybe no one knows like where it came from. It might be from some project that wasn't needed and is still laying around in case you need it later. You never will, but you always want to keep it in case. So that's kind of the idea there. There's just a bunch of, I used like the hangers and stuff from Endgame. Like I said, I didn't want to make a custom like random like screws or anything, but those worked fine as little extra details. And here I'm stealing from my old build to add some stuff in, like this mug. I think I also stole the lamp. I don't know if you could see it earlier. I kind of cut that out because I didn't want to waste time on showing you stuff I've already built, but I did add a lamp in too. And I mean, yeah, I mean, copying these assets is just like super easy, and it means I don't have to like worry about making it twice. So I did that as much as I could from that area, and I'll probably do it again for a bunch of things in the vet surgery and main complex. If there's mugs there, you best believe I'll be using those mugs. And yeah, here I'm working on this incubator, and this is fun. This is just kind of like a chicken incubator. I didn't go crazy on the details here either, on the interior at least. On the outside, I made it look pretty accurate, but yeah, the inside is kind of just this rack where I put the 2 eggs, and I didn't really worry about like the lamp or the wiring or anything like that. So I mean, it looks fun. And then I also added in the Ornithomimus eggs in there as little what's the word, Easter egg. So if you ever come to this park and you see the eggs, just know there's Ornithomimus in there. And it's sitting on this little, it's a weird looking kind of table thing, at least the way it latches. So it's kind of like a table with latches holding up a like platform, like a grate. You can see here. I don't know if this is the standard. I've never been into bird keeping or anything, so I mean, yeah, you can see here it kind of like holds this other one up. I think it's loose. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's just loose, like laid on top of it. I mean, I'm sure that's fine for what you need it for, but it was kind of strange to me to see that. I don't know why if there's a reason maybe to not use a normal table for an incubator like this one. Maybe, I don't know. There you can see the eggs. Maybe it's just to disperse the heat from like the heat lamp. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, yeah, cluttering up these walls again. Just like Nigel, Bob also loves to just hang up a bunch of notes and stuff, as you do in your workshop. I didn't go into detail on any of those. I just kind of used the white and blue papers to kind of imply that there was notes taken. And here we work on the drill. So the funniest thing about this is, or not, I keep saying drill. I've been meaning to say saw this whole time. It's a saw. So the funniest thing about the saw is that I was working on it, building the saw based off references from the internet, and then I went back to look at the show, and I'd been building like the wrong kind of saw the entire time. After I looked at like a better frame, like 2 frames earlier, you could see a much clearer picture of what it was supposed to be. So I ended up building 2 different saws. So I just kind of threw it in behind some stuff to look like clutter. Like maybe this was Bob's old saw blade that he doesn't use anymore. It's a little rusted, a little weathered, and then built a new one. And I mean, I just didn't want to waste it because I used so much time to build this. And I mean, you can see it looks fine. It's not like it looks bad or anything. So I just kind of hid it as a little tucked away, stowed away kind of thing. And I mean, yeah, once I realized, I just kind of throw it over there and start again. And I mean, the saw blade I don't think is super accurate. I think I kind of just got the basic shapes in. Like I said, I didn't want to go crazy on anything, but it looked okay. And I mean, if anyone needs a saw blade, I'll put this up on the workshop eventually when I put all of the props I still need to get around to. So, and you have 2 options to choose from if you want saw 1 or saw 2. You'd also see I added, I don't know if that was shown on video, but I added this little fence from Prehistoric Park laying on its side like it's broken, because in the background of some shots you can see they had like the fence prop and like the extras were kind of like lifting it, looking like they were working on it. So I was like, okay, I can't add the extras, but I can add in the fence. So yeah, here we're working on the second version, and it's a different kind of saw. Also, as you can see there, I used the dummy that's on the workshop, like the stand-in for a human, and I made it look like the Prehistoric Park uniform. Just gonna be our stand-in Bob. I thought it was kind of funny. I wasted a little time doing that just for some fun. But yeah, this saw, back to it. I really don't have anything to say on the saw, honestly. It's just a nice build. It really adds detail to the area. I'm sure the workshop was bigger in person, and I'm sure the area that actually exists in real life is a lot bigger. But we didn't need any of that for the show, so I didn't worry. And yeah, I put a log underneath to kind of show like someone might be using it. Looks pretty good. Yeah, as you can see, just kind of cluttering it up. Pretty much close to the end here. Or close to the end of this build, at least. So yeah, I used some hay to look like sawdust. And kind of just putting the finishing touches on this area. And then, so yeah, now we're done, I guess. So this is us adding in Argentinosaurus as our new stand-in. Now that the ontogeny and like baby update is here, I can get rid of the Camarasaurus and make like these smaller, I think they're around 70% grown. Or Margosaurus, no, Argentinosaurus. And we moved right into Mammoth Mount. So now instead of Camarasaurus bothering me while I'm building, I'll have Argentinosaurus. I also decided I wanted to name one of the Argentinosaurus, and I named it after Scott. So just to have kind of them immortalized in the park, because they've been such a huge help. And I was thinking I could probably start naming some of the creatures that don't get named, just based off your guys' ideas. So if you have any ideas for animals that aren't already named in the show, if you want a name on one of them, let me know, and if I like them, I might add them. And you might see those. I'm not going to show them or anything. It'll be just kind of like a special surprise if you download the map, and you might see an animal you named in the park. So I thought that'd be a really fun idea to give some of the animals names. I always, even as a kid, I found it weird that they would name Martha and Theo and Matilda and Terrence, and then for some reason like the Ornithomimus don't get names, or like the crocodile or anything. I mean, like, that's kind of biased if you think about it. So that being said, yeah, just comment down below if you have any name ideas. And once again, just huge shout out to Scop for all of their research that's gone to help me, even if they didn't like intend for it to be helping me. They just kind of did it out of their own interests, I guess. But yeah, let's talk about Mammoth Mount for the 30 seconds more I have of this. So I just kind of went in and added the new plants and tried to blend it in. I also raised the height because that was important. I felt like there wasn't really much of a mount to Mammoth Mount, so I gave her her height back, and now she kind of overlooks everything. And finally, I added the Smilodon cubs before I ran out of time here. So yeah, hopefully we can build the other exhibit for the grown-ups. So that's basically the end of this. And that's going to do it for today, guys. I want to thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, comment down below if you have any names for any of the park's animals, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.